the reasons why I started doing Anime Abandoned nearly a decade ago was because I wanted to re-examine the anime of yesteryear through an American lens and see what was and what is, as well as get a few cheap laughs. Today can be seen as a sort of return to form because, well, there are few cheaper laughs to be had than here in Goku Midnight Eye. A 2-episode OVA series released in Japan in 1989, Goku is the product of manga artist Boichi Terasawa, seen here with the director of The Fifth Element, Luc Besson, because the 90s were a whole lot weirder than you remember.
A dozen milkmen? Isn't that a little unusual?
12 milkmen is theoretically possible. 13 is silly.
You got a point there, Keanu Reeves and Dogboy makeup. Handling the directorial reins is longtime friend of the show, Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who at this point has worked on at least 10% of the total anime I've talked about here in some form or another. Director, writer, animator, storyboard artist, character designer, what didn't this guy do? And if you're at all familiar with Kawajiri's work, then you might have an inkling as to what's in store for us today. And boy howdy are you right! Now, I say that this episode is going to be a bit of a throwback, but I don't want us to just point and laugh at a cheesy, ultra-violent anime just for the yucks, although we're totally gonna do that. I also want us to look at Goku as a timestamp of when anime was a 4-letter word, and had to be special ordered from the back of a catalog, as well as a moment when anime was a gonzo force of nature that just did not give two turds about what you thought of it. The title of this video isn't just clickbait. They really don't make anime like this anymore. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'll leave for you to decide, but right now we have a more important question to answer. Just what in the hell is Goku Midnight Eye? Well, obviously it's the future, seeing how it's taking place 6 years ago, as we see our titular Goku...
You've done well, Goku.
Or Gaku...
Oh, by the way, I'm Goku.
Or Goku! Gotta love that 90s UK dub. Anyway, we see... him corner some punk and impale him with a goddamn lead pipe. You know, because Commando was a thing. Let off some steam. Whoever you are. God, this is the first time we get a good look at the character, and cripes, he makes Ashley Williams look like Ashley Williams. Alright, look, the point is the guy is so full of suffocating machismo that even Reb Brown would feel inadequate to play him. Just look at him. Sports jacket with no shirt so you can still see his shredded abs, and yet he still sports a skinny black tie like if Elwood Blues moonlighted as a Chippendales dancer, or like HBK at last year's WrestleMania. And he drives a Corvette because, as we all know, private investigators make Corvette money. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention he's also a private investigator. Now, all we need is...
I was wondering, would you like to guard my vault key for me?
Thanks, but I'll pass.
And he just brushed off a femme fatale like it ain't no thing. He just reached 110% cool! Savage, what in the hell is wrong with you? I thought you dig this guy.
I can't! I'm scared of him!
Kind of laying it on a bit thick here, Terasawa, who also just so happened to write the screenplay to this, his very own anime adaptation. Care to enlighten us all to the methodology of how you carefully crafted this enriching and thought-provoking character?
言えば、その好き勝手なことを言えるっていうのは、非常に僕たちからしてみれば、言ってみたいっていうね、やっぱ偉い人にだからどうなんだっていうセリフを吐いてみたい。
I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm having a bit of difficulty parsing through your Japanese doublespeak, Terasawa, so let me try to be clear. Did you just inadvertently admit that Goku here is a self-insert power fantasy?
やっぱり好き勝手に自分の法律法文に沿って生きていけるっていうのはやっぱり理想像だなって思いますけど。
Brilliant. Not even an attempt to hide it, because sadly, you can't hide your boner behind a pair of Kim Jong-il's sunglasses. It's just so nakedly obvious that the manga, and by extension the anime, is really nothing more than a vanity project for the man, which is unsurprising when you find out that Terasawa is most famous for creating, wait for it, Space Adventure Cobra.
Come, Cobra. I am yours to love.
All I'm saying is the guy doesn't really stray far from his MO. To be honest, it's kind of nice to see somebody just wholesale own up to their spank bank material. Like, how many times have creators have had to put out mealy-mouthed, pathetic excuses to justify their aesthetic choices in their female character design, Kojima? Meanwhile, here's Terasawa and Kawajiri holding a party while hiring the most visibly uncomfortable bikini models to hype their anime's release. God, I hope those women were paid well. You might consider it a bit unfair to compare a video game director to an anime director, but I would like to counter with the fact that Kojima went on record that Kawajiri is his favorite, to the point where he actually got his entire studio to study Wicked City. Some might study films like 8.5, or The Shining, or Eraserhead. Kojima studies Wicked City. You know, I think I can actually see the influence here. Basically, he's the James Cameron to Kojima's Michael Bay. Sure, this might all sound a bit tongue-in-cheek, but Kawajiri was never one to purport himself or his work as anything other than what it is. And it's this kind of mentality that creates this kind of charm that I find in most, if not all, of his anime.
割と50分一気にアクションで見せちゃうっていうようなスタイル。かなりハードアクションを期待してもらっていいと思います。
He didn't want nor intend for his work to be other than what it is, an action fest filled with blood and babes. And Terasawa seems right on board with it.
常に最初から最後まで面白い。それを僕も漫画をそういう姿勢で望んでるんで。
And in this bon vivant spirit, the both of them created this anime with little regard to the optics.
その結構女の子を語るっていうのはなんとなくやっぱりアクセサリーっぽく扱われているし。
Fucking yikes! Yeah, no shit you do. Wait, you mean in the anime? Yeah, no shit you do. Oh, I get it. When anime makes women into literal props that men can ride, they're being sexist. But when Lady Gaga does it to herself, it's just kind of stupid. Never forget. It's pretty obvious that both Terasawa and Kawajiri really didn't have any compunction about using female characters as objects for the sake of making Goku here the most awesomest, most badass dude in the history of reality, which really just goes to show what their definition of cool is, or at the least it does for Terasawa.
だから男がかっこよく生きていれば女も女の性として対比ができるんじゃないか。
And because there's such transparency, you can't help but look at Goku Midnight Eye as anything other than a juvenile, shameless power fantasy that either has no sense of self-awareness,
悟空がかっこよく見せたいがための女性で
or has way too much self-awareness.
But even though I have every computer on the planet or in its orbit under my control, I still couldn't save a woman's life. Bummer.
But in either case, it's still hilarious. Being so forthright with their intentions also does away with the slimy feeling that a lot of these anime can have, because at the very least, they're not trying to hide their thirst with hand-waving in-universe reasoning. There's no, it's just her armor, or on her planet, casual sex with strange aliens is normal, or that's absolutely how boobs would look like in bullet time. It's just hard to look at it and not see the blatancy of it all as anything other than unintentional parody of itself and these kinds of anime. Like, really, you guys actually think Goku is cool? This guy.
Still, what brings you back to headquarters?
Well, I thought I'd come and make a date with the prettiest officer on the force. But seeing as Tammy has just died, it'll have to be you.
This guy couldn't be a bigger tool if he were strapped to Ellie's belt. Even Steven Seagal would tell him to get off the ego trip. I'd like to believe that at the end of the day, their decisions led them to making the anime that the both of them wanted to make. I mean, I'd like to.
ところというと、まあとにかく僕も川尻監督もそうですけども、見どころはなく。
Wow, was that a 1970 cream white Challenger? Because that was a nice dodge. But regardless to how Terasawa might have felt with the anime, or Kawajiri for that matter, who winds up laughing off the notion of a third OVA while admitting he didn't even want to think about it, the anime itself winds up being the kind of violent schlock that formed the foundation of this show. This time with the added benefit of a nice nice layer of irony baked right in. So throughout this episode, I don't want you to look at Goku here as the slick ladies man that has a bitching car and can sleep around like his penis cured cancer. Instead, look at him like this. Yeah. So now that I think I got everyone on the right wavelength to see this anime for what it is, I think it's high time we actually talked about the anime. It's gonna be a hoop and a holler. This is Goku Midnight Eye. As we've established, Goku is a private eye who had previously worked for the Force, and the first episode sees him dragged into a nasty conspiracy. Seems that members of a special force within the police have been mysteriously dying by unusual acts of suicide, and all of these members just so happen to be tailing, "Oh, come on, Kawajiri, you lazy butthole! That's just Calypso from Cyber City Oedo!" Okay, so this came out before Cyber City Oedo, but the point is that this isn't the first time that Kawajiri was caught with his hand in the "let's just reuse some of my old character designs" jar. Lest we forget... Now I know how he was able to work on 50 bajillion anime over his entire career. You just Control-V'd it. But even though Goku here left his old job on bad terms, or I assume so considering his comically vindictive old boss here.
I fired you the last time that you pissed me off. Do it again and I'll have you locked up for so long you won't remember what daylight is.
Just in case if you were wondering, no, this guy has nothing to do with what's going on. He's just being an asshole to be an asshole. Kind of like that guy in your group of friends who insists on playing Mario Party. Because there always is one, isn't there? But still, the deaths do have Goku a bit rattled, though it takes the notion of having his wood polished for him to take actual action, contacting an old comrade on the off chance he could get inside her foxhole, as well as info on what's going on. Though I'm not sure how much of her guidance he actually really needed.
That building's Hakuryu's base. His headquarters. He runs all his operations from there.
Is there some kind of unwritten rule where every single corrupt businessman in 80s cyberpunk stories have to reside in the most inconspicuous buildings imaginable? And yes, I'm looking at you, Tyrell. But at the very least, Goku is on the trail, even though by now Calypso 2.0 is already offed about half the police department thanks to his Las Vegas showgirl lackey who can hypnotize and bend the will of men. You know, like that female demon in Wicked City. Also, isn't it the peacocks that have the bejeweled eye-like feathers and not the peahens? Details.
This is Car 96. We have a Sirius 109 here. Victim is yet unidentified.
Oh man, this case must be so huge they have to call in the cops from New York City!
The only way you can stop a little guy like me is with machine guns. Then you can kiss my butt and call it ice cream.
That's right, our good friend Alan Marriott is back in another glorious UK dub that a lot of us on this side of the pond probably didn't get to hear. The DVD I'm pulling the footage from has both this and the original US dub, as was first pressed when Urban Vision held the property. Sure, the US dub has its particulars, including a then-unknown Steve Bloom as Goku.
But so far, we just keep coming up empty-handed.
Well, I suppose it can't help any that all the members of your team have this annoying habit of bumping themselves off.
But when push comes to shove, gotta go with the UK dub.
They're dropping out of the air like
That
flies.
makes you the last surviving member of the Special Investigation Section.
That's 2 109s. If they keep coming like this, we're gonna need hard hats.
Well, Alan, you certainly would know a thing or two about hard hats. Yeah, the guy was in Bob the Builder because why the hell not? Seeing as how they're dropping out of the air like flies, Goku puts the spurs to it and infiltrates Calypso's base, where he immediately gets caught.
That's enough, Mr. Chang. Let our visitor live.
Why? Oh, I see. It's so that you could show off your collection of deadly poisonous insects that you call Beelzebubs. Weird flex, bro, but alright.
Take this meddlesome fellow away and have him killed. This time make it look like an accident.
And by accident, I mean put him back in his car and then have the hypnotizing woman drive himself off a bridge. Because that makes hella sense. But Goku is not just any ordinary man, no siree. as he manages to resist the hypnosis and breaks himself out of enthrallment by stabbing himself in the eye before swerving off the road and into the drink. Now, what happens next is about 5 minutes of the most unbelievable bullshit ever foisted upon an anime. From him spilling into the water until he wakes up on a park bench, a non-stop cavalcade of ridiculousness assaults us like a hurricane. Starting with this omniscient voice who somehow knows everything about Goku, who decides to give him a cybernetic eye that can control electronics because he was bored, I guess.
You now have instant and unlimited access to the information superhighway. You can call any data you may want into your left eye in a flash.
Oh my god, he can actually hack the planet.
Now, they are all under your control. You are the most powerful man in the world.
Stop! My penis can only get so erect.
You just know that Terasawa was hovering over his keyboard at this exact moment, typing with one hand. And how does Goku respond to this unbelievable news? With a goddamn smarmy smirk. Christ, this guy. But lest the guy who was just deemed the most powerful man in the world should be left wanting for anything, the disembodied voice leaves him with a telescoping staff that can fire lasers, because Journey to the West was a thing. Thanks, mysterious voice who we know nothing about, nor will we ever learn anything about. You fix everything. Hey, you know how in video games, whenever you get like a new spell or piece of equipment, there will often be like this random group of enemies that'll show up out of nowhere just so you can try it out?
Hey, mister, could you spare us a cigarette?
Yeah, you know, I just bring it up for no reason. But hey, Goku still has some holes he needs to plug up, so he checks in on love interest number 36-D. Bastard, that line should have been mine.
Maybe you don't drink while you're working these days.
No, I haven't changed. In fact, it's a rule with me to drink while I'm at work.
You and me both, bub. But a man of such ungodly charisma and perception points could only be fooled for so long, as his eye immediately points out that there's something fishy here. And the whole romantic night turns pear-shaped as he takes out both the gal and Jerry Lee Lewis here.
Goku.
Okay, now let me guess. You met this really weird-looking woman with feathers sticking out of her ass.
No. I mean, yes. Now look over there. Before you even have the time to ask yourself how Calypso could even find out that Goku is still alive, it's made plainly evident that while Goku's eye is the very definition of OP, it's not all-seeing. Otherwise, it would have seen Jerry's comatose head opening up to release a swarm of poisonous bees. So that's what happened to those murder hornets from a few months ago. So, does Goku use his magnificent eye to instantly analyze their behavior and find out that they hone in on a target's breath when they exhale, kind of like Narancia's stand? Nah, he just remembered Calypso offhandedly telling him that back when he first got his ass kicked. Well, looks like you don't need a cybernetically enhanced eye to have hindsight. Too bad the love interest here didn't get the memo. And dead. Her boss isn't gonna be too happy about this. Or about anything, really.
Now I hear they're doing a stock taking down at the manure company. I suggest you get your worthless ass down there before they notice a sack of shit's missing.
Well, my goodness. There's something to look forward to.
You know, for as cringy as these British dubs can be, I would rather have that than a boring dub.
Listen, you and I may not like this creep, but we've got nothing on him. Like it or not, the man's got a fundamental right to be protected from police harassment.
Again, sorry, Steve. But now Goku is pissed off, and he decides that he's gonna lay the latest smackdown on Calypso's candy ass. So he hacks a satellite to broadcast his live feed on a nearby Titantron, just so he can cut a promo on him.
Yes, you Hakuryu. Just you wait. I'm gonna put your ass out to grass.
That's it? Dude, take it from a pro.
That's what I do in the morning when I kick 5 girls out of bed. I go, woo! And they go, woo, woo, woo!
It's also a good thing that Goku managed to hack the single most powerful directional microphone known to man on that satellite so Calypso can hear him. You know, the kind of ones that aren't on satellites. I think we've all been wrapped up in the sheer lunacy of this story that even the anime kind of forgets to give a reason as to why the police were following Calypso in the first place. But don't worry, they eventually iron out that little factoid.
And there's no way anyone can find out you're responsible. I assume you'll want to go ahead with the scheme?
Yes, it's a deal.
So he's been selling illegal weapons to foreign powers. Okay, what kind?
We suggest implanting the virus into the reproductive organs of male swans. The swans fly to your enemy's country in the spring to breed, and the virus will be carried with them.
Bye-bye. Now, not to tempt the YouTube gods or anything, but all I want to do is ask a simple question. How in the world do they expect any kind of virus to spread to humanity through a bird's reproductive glands? We're not characters from Preacher. I hope.
Yeah, I know. You think what I'm doing's mad, but like they say, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Got to do this. You have to jump out of a helicopter that you hacked and stole from God knows where, so you can pole vault using your magical infinite telescoping staff over to Calypso's building. You have to do this. I'm pretty sure he meant that he had to kill Calypso, but now I want to believe that he's obligated to do it, like he honestly has no choice in the matter, like he's a badass, and there's nothing he can do about it. No, you don't understand. I had to blow past that red light so I could ramp off the train tracks, thus causing the train to derail and crash into that orphanage. It was baller!
Please tell me that's not a Pontiac Fiero strapped to a rocket engine?
Impressive. I know.
Ah, check it out. I missed an all-important part of Goku's ensemble. The J-Hunter special waistcoat. You know, it really does tie the whole look together, doesn't it? I mean, how else would you want to be dressed as you are being chased by an armor-clad dwarf on a naked motorcycle robot vampire lady that shoots lasers? It's really the only appropriate dress. But even as Calypso managed to ensnare Goku in a death trap where the halls are filled with water, which he had installed for some reason, Goku still just wriggles his way out. I love how they got the word closed wrong, but then wound up getting the word right, but didn't bother fixing the first mistake. It's like they weren't sure which way the word is supposed to be spelled, so they went with both.
Military victory and women are very similar. One always has to spend a vast quantity of money before one can get either to surrender.
あんまりその出てくる女の子を語るっていうのはなんとなくやっぱりアクセサリーっぽく扱われているし。
Fucking yikes. But with the tides literally turned, Goku finishes off Calypso with the severed head of his own lady motorcycle vampire. Ah, the dramatic irony. And that's the first episode. And I'm stopping myself right here because I need you all to see this anime. It's widely available and ready for purchase, and it comes with the Sage's problematic fave approval. Let's not mince words about it. The anime itself has waged woefully in terms of style, writing, and pretty much agreed upon good taste. But because it's so abrasive and dumb and loud, it becomes this poster child of the anime scene of way back when. If you ever wondered what watching anime felt like in the early 90s, this might as well be a time machine, which sounds more and more desirable by the day. I just can't rightfully recall any anime that was released in the last 20 years that reached this level of testosterone-fueled, blood-drenched stupidity. And be proud of it. Last thing I want to say about the second part before we close things up though, Terasawa? What were you saying about the highlights again?
というと、まあ、とにかく僕も川尻監督もそうですけども、見どころはなく。
No highlights. Huh. You mean to tell me when Goku chases after a Chinese gangster on robot roller skates careening down the sheer face of a building, that's not a highlight? Or when Goku agrees to kill the brother of a woman who hired him just as he takes her to his nearby fireside bone rug to lay pipe, that's not a highlight? Or when Goku hacks a military facility and forces it to build him a car capable of firing interdimensional missiles and can fly?
You wouldn't get that sort of performance from a modern car.
Terasawa, Bubby, are you fucking insane?
というと、まあ、とにかく僕も川尻監督もそうですけども、見どころはなく。
Are you sure about that?
As far as I'm concerned, Goku Midnight Eye is nothing but highlights, and you should reel this in if you have any inkling of curiosity. Well, that was a fun bit of fluff, wasn't it? But I'm craving something a bit meatier, don't you? Till next time.